Hey, this is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling with Platinum versus AEW Dark Elevation. This is episode 15 of Elevation. It ran a little over an hour and really a tightly done show. Once again, really great to see. I thought everything worked pretty well. A couple of standout performances, but we're just gonna jump right into it. Shivani's backstage to open our show with Matt Sydal. They're already building up this main event that they're gonna have, right? Our main event is Sydal against Jack Evans, and Sydal says he always stands up for his brother, and did so last week for his brother Mike. And he sees right through Jack Evans and Matt Hardy, so he knows they're in cahoots. So we're starting AEW Dark Elevation. We got the wrestler crowd in the house, and Justin Roberts is announcing the matches. First match, FTR, Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood in a squishy squash against Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs, who they give quite a bit of offense to. So how I do these is on a 3-check system for these matches that are foregone conclusion matches or squash matches, whatever you want to call them. 1 check mark if the proper entity is put over in a definitive fashion, and certainly that is the case where FTR wins here. And there's no doubt about that they won in definitive fashion. Though I thought it was interesting that they did it via tap out as Dax locks in a reverse figure 4. So they didn't just do their usual finisher, which I thought was interesting, that they're kind of giving a little wrinkle to the game. Second check mark if they look good in victory, and they most certainly did. FTR looked very sharp. And then Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs, did they do a good job, or were they given a disproportionately large amount of offense? The answer is yes, absolutely, they were. FTR really good with working with guys and making them shine in a very old school heel team fashion before they sort of close the book on them, and that most certainly happened. So 3 check marks and we're off to the races. They talk about the AEW World Title match that's going to take place between Kenny Omega and Jungle Boy, and then Vicky Guerrero interrupts Justin Roberts, of course, to introduce Nyla Rose, who's taking on Delmi Exo, who I have not seen before. Delmi Exo certainly does the job she's supposed to, which is she gets destroyed by Nyla Rose. Boy, they're just letting Nyla Rose plow through people. So 3 check marks for that one. Next, we're going to have the Acclaimed, who are over like Rover, and Max Caster raps. His rap was okay. I will say the corporate synergy line did make me laugh pretty freaking hard. Baron Black and Tamilian Vanish try to attack during the rap, and then they get beat down during it. Baron Black always does a really good job. It's the first time I can remember seeing Tamilian Vanish, who also does okay, and they definitely had Tamilian there to take the brunt of the beating and to take the fall. So they're protecting Baron Black a little bit, which I think is noteworthy, and I also think it's a good idea because Baron Black's good stuff. 3 check marks here. The Acclaimed kind of get better and better and better as a team. How long they're going to be able to keep them heel, that's going to be the challenge for sure. Bums Are Us, Milo Beasley and Ray Bees. Really great to see them, actually. I've seen them before here in Florida, and it was a real thrill to see them here against the Varsity Blondes, Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison with Julia Hart. I have to say this, because I noticed it on Dynamite as well when Julia Hart had her match against Penelope Ford, that Griff Garrison has to get behind Julia Hart with every bit as much enthusiasm as Brian Pillman Jr. does. I think Julia Hart brings a lot to that team. With her as part of their unit, they look like a main event act. Without her, I'm just going to be honest, they seem like a mid-card act. So I think they really need to support Julia Hart as much as she supports them. She definitely does that job there. This is a relatively short match, which surprises me a little. Um, At the end of the day, though, they do that assisted drop kick combo and get the win. Garrison looks really good here. I really like the big boot that he laid in. He's getting to make that move look very, very effective. And a nice, good old-fashioned back body drop as well. But Milo Beasley and Ray Bees did a really great job. Hope to see more of them. 3 check marks here, and we're moving on. Renee Michelle against Chris Statlander. This match goes a little longer, which I think is really great. Renee Michelle able to keep up and play with Chris Statlander. They do a little booping of the nose thing and all of that stuff. Statlander responds with the lariat and that Big Bang Theory pile driver move. This looks so brutal in these squash matches, but Chris Statlander definitely somebody that they're going to push and make prominent in the women's division. And this match looks good to me, so 3 check marks. I have a feeling we might be getting our 10th 3 check marks all night. Or no, for Elevation, this would be our 5th or 6th. It's a 5th, I believe. They generally run really well. I think these the matches on Elevation tend to just be of a slightly higher caliber. Like I said, it comes across as the B show and Dark proper the C show. And definitely so far tonight it's been really great. They do the group hug with the best friends and all as well. Taz is backstage with Powerhouse Hobbs in anticipation for their match on Saturday Dynamite, where Hobbs is going to take on Hangman Adam Page. Good basic promo stuff here. And I gotta say, Powerhouse Hobbs is looking better and better and better as far as physically. He's always been kind of a big dude. Now he's a big, imposing looking guy for sure. Matt Hardy with his Hardy Family Office against Jorah Jal. Who's making his debut, and they actually make a little storyline out of this. Matt Hardy, of course, wins with the twist of fate. Doesn't use the leech, which is a bit of a shock. Gives Jorah some offense, though. And then, so 3 check marks, easy peasy. And then post-match, Hardy is given a mic, and he says he's the kingmaker. And he says Joel will have to do crap work, but he can make it so he can actually continue to keep his job in the U.S. I guess he's from India. So he says he can make Joel a king and will be in touch. And surprisingly, they have a promo from Joel later on. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But we have Carl Hero and Ryzen, who is definitely over with the wrestler crowd, against the Pinnacle, Sean Spears and Wardlow. This is what you would expect. Ryzen does, gets in a little offense, but generally this is about Sean Spears and Wardlow plowing through these guys, and Wardlow ultimately hitting that falling knee move that is just so brutal. 3 check marks, and we're having a good night. Powerhouse Hobbs against Darian Benson. This is exactly what you think it would be. Benson tries to throw some shots in, but I mean, he posts him, and then he does a bow and arrow. Hobbs does the body slam, and then he does that Emerald Fusion, which I guess they're calling Town Business. Just brutal. And then Hobbs thought he was going to do it again post match, but he just throws him in the corner and just demolishes him. 3 check marks here. Mark Sterling, the attorney for Jade Cargill, cuts a promo. They have an announcement that they signed Jade to be the face of the Black News Channel. I'm not sure exactly what that was supposed to make us. I don't know. It definitely came across as pretty flat, I have to say. Jade Cargill against Robin Renegade. Boy. Cargill demolishes her. That Samoan drop looked really good. That Jaded finisher looks really good. 3 check marks, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Jorah Jal is backstage and says he knows that he probably shouldn't accept the offer, but he might have to fulfill that dream. So Matt Hardy continues his streak of just being a not so nice guy. And now one of my favorite matches of the night, Eddie Kingston and Penta El Zero Miedo with Alex at ringside, of course, against Fuego del Sol and Vari Morales. And 2 things surprised me. One, Fuego del Sol is the one who took the pin. off of that snapping arm move that Penta does. That just looks so freaking brutal, if I'm being honest. And Morales was in there quite a time, especially to work with Penta. Took that brutal chop, but really Morales got his stuff in. So 3 check marks, and again, very Morales, just so great at working with anybody that he's worked with, but especially when you get him in there with Penta or Ray Phoenix or any of the guys that tend to fly around or do a lot of spots. Very Morales is right there with them, and he's just so valuable. He's probably going to be my performer of the week. In fact, he most definitely is. Just another stellar performance by Very Morales. Really does himself proud every time he goes out there. Sorry. Cesar Bononi with the Wingmen at ringside against Jungle Boy with Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt. And the Wingmen get into it with the other members of the Jurassic Express. So that is cool, but for the most part, this is about Jungle Boy going over. He isn't able to lock in his snare trap because the Wingmen kind of bust that up. So he wins by basically like, boom, thrust kick to the head, then on the knee, hits a sliding lariat in the back of Bononi's head for the win. Bononi did not look awkward here. Jungle Boy is quite the proficient mover and knows how to make people look good. I will call this a competitive match, so we grade on a slightly different scale. If both people look good, you get a check mark, which they did. If the proper person is put over in a definitive fashion, and Jungle Boy was, and they sort of put up this notion that he doesn't have to win with the snare trap. And to me, that is elevating something that is of use elsewhere. And this idea that Jungle Boy can pin you is really, really important. And so they definitely put that over before his match with Kenny Omega. So 3 check marks. Looks like we're going to check mark out because we have another competitive match in our main event. And it's Jack Evans and Matt Sydal. And I got to admit that I got a little nostalgic for this. And because if this match took place years and years ago, this would have been a humongous match on the independents. And how it was fun to watch these guys really just get to kind of cut loose and go at it, hit different kind of moves. I thought it looked really, really great. And at the end of the day, after a series of roll-ups and submissions and counters, Matt Sydal does hit the lightning spiral and get the win. 3 check marks all around. I'll call this competitive. What are the check marks for? 1, because they both looked good. 2, because Matt Sydal went over in a definitive fashion and seemed very happy to do it. And 3, I have no doubt this is going to set up Matt and Mike Sydal against TH2. So 3 check marks all night long, which is great news and a great look. I'm Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling.